What's the deal, everybody? I want to thank y'all for tuning into the Black Renaissance. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all the future content. Today, I want to talk real quick about something I've been seeing online a lot that people have been asking for and kind of needing advice on. And that's which African country should I move to? Now, a lot of people like myself have been considering and actually planning on moving from the diaspora back to homeland of Africa to, start a lives over. But a lot of people are having, a little difficulty in choosing which country will be best suited for them. So I came up with a list of a few things you should consider. Of course, I can't give you the best option for yourself or tell you where you should go. I mean, that's up to each individual. But after looking at these considerations and really thinking them over, hopefully this will help you figure out which country is best for yourself. Okay. All right, so for me personally, the most important thing I can think of when it comes to uh, figuring out which country is the best suit for myself would be, do they offer dual citizenship? Now, for a lot of y'all who are coming from the U.S. like myself, a lot of people are at that point where they feel they don't want to have anything to do with the U.S. and they say, hey, they'll just give up their citizenship and be done. But you got to really take into consideration that having two citizenships, two passports is power basically. It's leverage. It gives you flexibility and gives you options. So, even if you don't see the power in that right now, you definitely don't want to give that up. Just sit down and think about all the possibilities and options that you have. And you never know when that will come in handy. So, for me personally, number one has to be, do they offer dual citizenship? Now, as far as the countries in Africa that do offer the dual citizenship, after doing some research, man, it's actually pretty difficult to get a clear-cut answer because all the different sources have so much different information out there, and plus some of these countries are changing their laws and policies, and they're in the middle of making some changes. So it's kind of hard to get some clear-cut answers, but the short list of countries that I found that possibly or actually do offer dual citizenship would be Ghana, Nigeria, Benin, Ivory Coast, Kenya, Senegal, Sierra Leone, and the Gambia. Now, don't quote me on all those. You may have to look them up, those countries up individually, just to confirm that and see to get more specifics on it. Because one thing I will say is that a lot of these countries they say they do offer dual citizenship, but it's more so from the aspect of someone born in their country if they were to move to, let's say, the UK, US, Canada, something like that, have children, then they want those children who are citizens of those countries they were born in, if they were to go back home to the homeland in Africa, uh, could they become citizens? So it's kind of from that aspect of, hey, let's say, Nigerian parents have a child in the US, that child goes back to Nigeria. Nigeria says, yes, we will recognize you as a dual citizen of Nigeria and the US where you were born in. So that's why it's kind of difficult to get, some clear-cut answers on that because, some of these countries, the laws are kind of written from that perspective. All right, so like I said, you can look up those individual countries yourself, but that's, something you definitely should take into consideration that you don't want to just give up your citizenship in the country where you're coming from. All right, so second on the list would be language. Now, a lot of y'all, like myself, would be coming from an English speaking country. And yes, they do pretty much speak English almost anywhere in the world, but I would look for a country where English is a primary language or at least one of the primary languages because a country, they have some African countries where, you may have French or Portuguese may be the primary language. And yeah, there probably are English speakers in those countries, but you don't want to be kind of in the minority, or I mean, well, at least myself, for you it may be different. You may be okay being in a French speaking country or an area where they primarily speak French and just make it happen. But for me, I'm going to look for a country where English is one of the primary languages spoken. Now, definitely you need to learn the local African language, at least one of them wherever you're going to go. But in the meantime, while you're learning that language, of course, it's hard to become proficient, and sometimes it takes some time to become proficient. So, to make it a little more easier as a transition, I would look for a country where English is one of the primary languages. And some of those countries where English is primary, just on a short list of countries where, some of the countries that are more popular for repatriation, Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Rwanda, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and the Gambia are some countries where, English is the primary language. All right, and number three on my list of things I would consider would be which side of the road do they drive on? All right, now some of y'all, again, you may think that's ridiculous, but if you live in a country where you drive on the right side of the road, you go to a country where they're driving on the left, man, it's madness. You know what I'm saying? It's madness in your eyes, and it's one of those things where you don't even see yourself being able to drive on the other side of the road. Now, I've heard that some countries that make you go through a whole process if you want to get a license in that country. If you're coming from a right side driving country and you go to a country where they drive on the left, you have to go through a whole process to get your license. That's just what I heard because it can be such a big adjustment and a big risk if you've been doing it one way your whole life. And me personally, I just will not be comfortable. I don't want to even take that time to try to figure out how to drive on the left-hand side of the road. Fortunately, most countries in Africa do drive on the right-hand side, such as they do in the U.S., Canada. No, UK drives on the left. So if you're from the UK, maybe you would look for a country where they drive on the left. It's not very many in Africa. Actually, I believe the only parts of Africa where they do drive on the left is primarily in the eastern region and the southern region, including Kenya. Kenya drives on the left-hand side. But Rwanda, which I believe is considered more Central Africa, they drive on the right. But pretty much everywhere in the east and southern region, they drive on the left-hand side. Now, if you're going to the west coast of Africa, west central, um, you're good. Driving on the right. So that's just another one of those things you want to think about because that's a big life adjustment. Outside of that, man, you want to look at stuff like the stability of the country from a political standpoint and a security standpoint. You have some countries that may have just gone through, like a civil war, any sort of coups or political revolutions. You want to see how stable that country is because if it's an unstable country, man, where people are fighting over who's going to be in control and they're not having regular elections, you really don't want to be in that sort of situation. Like we're already coming, out of the U.S. through a lot of, BS and turmoil. And are you really trying to be in the middle of this political war that a country may be having on? And sometimes they go from political to actual physical wars when you're thinking about, some of these countries' governments being overthrown and stuff like that. So definitely look at their history of stability from a political aspect and also from a national security aspect. Because, yeah, we have, terrorism in the U.S. and terrorists that go unchecked, but, it can be a little different dealing with some of these other countries as far as the terrorism they have, because, we don't really have terrorists in the U.S. who literally control whole parts of the country where the U.S. military can't get into. Like, we don't have terrorism like that, or we don't have terrorism where groups right here in the country can literally possibly take over a country or come and wipe out whole towns or villages. Now, some of y'all may think that, hey, that's overblown, it's a stereotype, but no, there's a few countries where this is, fairly common or a little more common that I would be comfortable with personally. because you're not trying to get caught up in any BS, and there are risks for foreigners in some countries, and even the locals will tell you that there can be risk in certain countries in certain areas. It is a risk coming from a foreign country where they think you have money. So take the political and national security and do your research on that and make sure they're stable in those regards, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're in the middle of you leave in the situation here in the U.S. or in whatever country you're coming from, looking for a more stable life, and of course things aren't going to be perfect, but you're really not trying to get stuck into something really really serious like that. Um, and besides the stability, definitely want to look at the business and land ownership laws, because a lot of these countries, of course, they have different laws and regulations for foreigners when it comes to how much land you can own, or if you can own land at all. Of course, that's if you want to own land, because I mean you don't have to own land to live there comfortably. You can just buy a home or rent a home that's already been built. Um, but definitely know what the laws and regulations are, and be open to the difference in the laws and in the customs, especially when it comes to land, because land ownership was pretty much something that wasn't natural to Africa and most other indigenous communities. They didn't have land ownership. It was a whole new concept the Europeans placed upon them. So, of course, the mindset when it comes to land ownership is going to be totally different. And especially, it's just a different history between, the country where you're at now in the West and what you're going into. So just be open and mindful as to why some of their laws and policies may be the way they are in terms of land ownership, and then definitely the business laws when it comes to setting up a business, because some countries they have regulations. Of course, they have the different business structures like they might have in the U.S. as far as being self-employed. A self-employed entrepreneur. I can't think of the term off the top of my head. Then they have if you have an LLC, which is a limited liability corporation. Then you have an actual corporation. Those are typically the different structures that are available for businesses. So find out what the regulations are. Find out what you would have to do to set up a business in a specific country, because like Ghana, for example, to set up a LLC, a limited liability corporation. Don't quote me on this, but it's something around along the lines of, if you want to open a LLC by yourself, it's like you have to invest $500,000 cash. And if you want to partner with a Ghanaian to open an LLC, it's about $100,000 investment. Now, the average person does not have that sort of money to open a business, but of course, you do have the option of setting up a single single member self entrepreneurship. Like that, off the top of my head, I can't think of the name of it, but basically a business where you don't actually have like a license or structure or anything like that. It's more informal business you can start. So I believe you can still start those sort of businesses where you don't have a minimum investment, but just be knowledgeable of the requirements each individual country may have, so that you know what you're getting into and you know how much money you're going to need. And actually, you need to go with as much money as you can. But those are some of the things I think you should consider in choosing which African country would be best for you to move to. Hopefully, after looking into some of these considerations, it'll help you narrow down the list, and then of course you can go from there. So again, if you like this video, man, hit that thumbs up. If you have any comments or other suggestions or things that you think that people should consider, definitely drop that below in the comment section, and hit that subscribe button. Like I said earlier, stay tuned for future content, and that's it. Peace.